So if you haven't checked out my other video that I did with my buddy Devin right here, you can watch that first, where he teaches you the basics of how you take solid portrait photographies, and I even take my own shot about using and taking headshots with my Nikon Z50. But in this video, I'm going to take those photos that I took and he took, and I'm going to show you exactly how I edit them in Lightroom. So I'm going to show you the bare basics, how you overall compensate for your exposure, how you smoothen out your skin, and overall how you edit your photos better so you can post them up on, let's say, Instagram or wherever your heart desires. I'm going to jump into Lightroom and show you guys in this video. As you can see right here, this is the basic before as well as after. And you're like, hey, what's the big difference? If I zoom into my face, you can see acne here, right? No one has clean faces, right? Completely smooth. And all I did there was, I'm going to show you exactly how I do that. Saturate it a bit, right? And the before and after, little subtle differences, but you will see a big change. So I'm going to show you exactly how I did that with my Nikon Z50 photos. So I'm going to go into my library folder and I'm going to find those photos that I took. So right here is the photos that I took of my buddy Devin. These are all on the Nikon Z50, remind you. And I'm going to show you exactly how I did that. So I'm just going to find the photo, double click it. It's going to go into the develop window. And now we can start working with something. So first off, when it comes to this photo, is what I'm going to do is I'm going to crop it. Hit your crop overlay tool right here. And just to get rid of that headspace, you know, making sure that it is a little bit more centered. You have your subject centered. Hit enter. There you go. And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to see the overall histogram over here and look, how does it look, right? Looks a little underexposed, and you can see my settings for this is I shot it at f2.8, 1/100, and ISO 100, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to up the exposure. As you can see, this toggle here. Next is I'm going to check the white balance. Neutral color. And because the background is gray, it's perfect, right? Then I'm gonna up the contrast. I'm gonna lower down the exposure just a bit. And then I'm also gonna lower down the highlights, right? So you see get a little bit more of the details in the face. And what you're looking for is essentially something that is well balanced within a photo. And of course, this takes time and effort. I'm just going to do this through the run through, the real quick version of it, in case you don't have that much time, effort, and you're just posting in a photo on Instagram. So you can up the vibrance. The vibrance purposely, what it does is it just purposely increases the color tones and your skin tones instead of the overall image, right? Next is, let's say that is where you want it to be exposed. Let's say it's a little too vibrant. You can actually take away the saturation a bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of face and skin retouching. So I'm going to go into this and I'm going to hit my, let's say, my spot removal. Making sure that it is feathered at its default settings. You want to zoom in, right? And it's going to start cloning. So what you're going to do is find this acne here, and it's going to find something that's similar close, and it's going to get rid of it. And you can actually move it so it takes another spot. And that acne is now gone. And you can also do this here. You just click. I'm gonna lower down that size just a bit. And as you can already see, you hit enter. This is the before and after, right? I hit the brush tool, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna smooth the overall face. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna brush, right? Increase the size of this, making sure it's feathered. And there's two ways that I've seen people do this, right? You can either, one, play around with the texture tool. So once I, let's see, I put it all the way down to -100, look, it's really smoothed out the entire face, but it looks really fake. I can also see what if I increase that, it makes the acne in the face look really, really intense. So all I'm looking for is just to remove and make everything just a little teensy bit smoother, right? So right now, is that a -13, maybe a -8, right? You can also do a little bit of the reverse clarity, right? So clarity increased, decrease your clarity, -2, right? Hit Y, and you can see the before and after. That is your mask tool, and then after that, you hit your mask to undo, and then you just want to zoom out, and that is your edited photo, right? Before and after. Of course, you can get super technical in this, and you're like, okay, the skin tones are like too orange, I want to fix this. What I would usually do is I just go into your HSL secondary color, right? And you can change the saturation as well as the luminance of the hue, right? And that is how I would edit my own Nikon photos Z50 for your Instagram. And you can get super technical and more creative. Let's say if I jumped into, let's say, architecture picture, which I'm going to show you right now. All right, guys, so this was a photo that I took with my Nikon Z50 with the 50 to 250, which equivalent is to 70 to 300. And this is a street photography. You can see ISO 1000. I am shooting this at 170 millimeters, right? And f5.6, 1/80 of the stop. And it looks pretty sharp, right? You have a little bit of grain, but it is what it is. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna develop this, right? So what I'm gonna do, this is a raw photo file, is first thing is I'm gonna increase the exposure. Next is I would change the white balance, right? And because it's architecture, there isn't really, you know, a right or wrong. It's more along the lines of what is your artistic preference, right? Because it's buildings, there isn't like a skin tone. So what I'm gonna go for this neo type of look. I would adjust my highlights, right? Maybe darken this, increase my shadows, maybe have a little bit more contrast, make it a little moody. Maybe it's too blue. And then I would play around with all these orders. And the thing is, how Lightroom is you work from top to bottom. So what you want to do is you look at the white balance, right? Exposure, contrast, and you do it in that order, which is why they purposely did it like that. Maybe, you know, have just a little bit of clarity. And then what I can do now is, because of this red highlight here, what I can do with that is I completely change its hue. I can make it orange, I can make it purple, right? Let's make it purple. Play around with the different hues and color tones you got here. To make that red pop out even more. All right, increase the saturation, as well as the luminance, which is like the highlights. And this is the basics of how you creatively edit a Nikon Z50 photo. So I'm gonna press Y, and you see that is the before and after, as well as how you edit a portrait within Lightroom. And that, guys, was how you edit all your Nikon Z50 photos, whatever photos that you have in Lightroom. And if you want to get a little bit more serious about content creation and making that first buck, I have a course, link in the description, check that out, as well as I have the best camera guide settings class that you can check out, especially if you have a Nikon camera. Check that out. That is also in the link description. And you're watching Broke Visionary Collective, where we all start with nothing, but you can always create something. Cheers, guys.